Okay, my friends, before we get started, I want you to fully understand I give no medical advice whatsoever. This is a research project only to create a database to try to understand enzymes, proteins, bacteria, and their specific functions in this newly discovered organ called the interstitium. All right, so let's get started. Okay, my friends, this is quite serious. Today I am going to try to present a rational understanding of the immune system that controls chronic diseases, invasive chronic diseases. There are all kinds of issues that people have that they just never seem to get better. And the reason, I believe, is this right here, the interstitium, which is a newfound organ literally in the human body in 2018. And what lives in this fluid-filled highway that is your entire system is bacteria and enzymes. Those are the products that do chemistry that is involved in biology. And without the enzymes, there is no possibility of life. None. Zero. The enzymes do so much chemistry so fast that there is no way in the world you can live without them. But the bacteria create the enzymes, and a lot of people have trouble with their bacteria. They've been given antibiotics, which kills bacteria. They're drinking certain water and eating certain things that also damage the bacteria. Some children, especially the small ones, their digestive systems are not developed enough, and they are susceptible to serious damage very early in life if their immune system doesn't kick in. And that is what's happening, I believe, now. And we've had some success working with people that have had all kinds of different diseases. There's 200 different cancers, at least 200 different cancers. Why? Why is there so, and every one of them will eventually kill you. And why is there so many different types? Why isn't cancer just one type of cancer comes in and invades? No, they're specific to organs, they're specific to systems. Those different things require different chemistry, different catalysts, different enzymes. And the only way you get the enzyme is to have the bacteria. This is going to be a database, hopefully, that we will establish that will determine what is the correct types and quantities of bacteria to make you healthy. There certainly will become a profile that will say, these people that have all these things, they don't seem to get sick. These people that have these things do get sick. These people that are missing these things get sick. These people that have too much of these things get sick. There's going to be a way of understanding the relationships between the enzymes, the bacteria, and the illnesses. And that's what we're trying to establish with this database. And nobody's really done this yet. And it needs to be done immediately because the diseases are on the rise exponentially. And the people that don't get sick, I believe, have a certain profile in their bacteria in their body that regulates using enzymes to protect you from invasion and also break down the foods that you need to produce the vitamins and the minerals and all the things in your body that are used in this regulation process. You're being regulated. Your entire system is a process of regulation. Too much of this, no good. Too little of that, no good. It's all kinds of stability based on the different chemistry that's required and when it's required and what it's required to do, to kill things or to break things down to make them consumable to you. And the only way this could possibly be done is with enzymes. They create millions, literally millions of chemical reactions within a second, which would take literally years for that to happen in a natural process. It would happen, but it's a catalyst, is a It speeds it up, and that's what an enzyme does. And that is what we're missing. So let's get started and discuss this topic, because it's a little deep. I mean, that's why it's never been figured out. And they just now discovered this interstitium. I was in the discovery process of this, and it was related to my work on fossils. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's how I discovered interstitium years ago. Before this is 2018, they claim this is a newfound organ. And in about 2015, I wrote the paper about this particular layer, this interstitium layer. And from then on, I have been studying it very deeply. And hopefully this will get us somewhere in trying to solve the problems, especially for these little kids. They have no digestive system to start with, and if they're very, very susceptible to issues, and a lot of them are medical interventions that they think they're doing good things to the kids, giving them certain antibiotics and so forth, but it's really damaging their system unless they have the enzymes to deal with. And that requires the bacteria. So this is what the database is all about. Can we find out what bacteria exists and what doesn't exist? Because this goes very deep into genomics and how the body processes what you take in. You take in all kinds of bad stuff, and you take in all kinds of good stuff. Well, you don't want the bad stuff getting into your system. And what happens is the enzymes control that process of what is allowed in and what is not allowed in. And it also breaks down the foods that are required to be broken down into little tiny little microscopic bits that your body is able to absorb to keep you healthy. So that's my introduction. I know it took a little while to do that, but this is going to be This is very important, so hopefully it'll come across in a way that'll be understandable. That's my hope. Let's get started. All right, let's just start here. Bacteria are the factories that produce enzymes. They're complex chemicals made up from amino acid subunits. I'll show you that. And without the enzymes, you're done. You're not going to create the chemistry. You have to have the chemistry. And the only way you get it is from the bacteria making the enzymes, which is the chemistry. All right, it's going to get a little bit technical, but not much. It's pretty simple. Enzymes are made from amino acids, these little building blocks. They are proteins. When an enzyme is formed, it's made by stringing together between 100 and 1,000 of these little building blocks in a very specific and unique order. And I mean specific and unique. And this is, they're called polypeptide chains. I'll demonstrate it to you, and I'll show you exactly how it works. Very simple. Okay, this is cancer growing a tumor through your fascia and then through that interstitial layer. This is the fluid-filled highway. And once it grows through that fluid-filled highway, it starts to dig into your vital flesh, and it grows itself very well, and it takes over. Now, you should have the chemistry in this layer to not allow that to come through. And what is the chemistry? It's the bacteria and the enzymes. If you don't have the enzymes, you can't fight back against this. This will break through, and it will be a chronic disease. You'll never be able to stop it because you don't have the enzymes. You may have a little bit of enzymes, but they're not capable. And once it breaks through, then you got an issue to try to get it back out of there. First of all, sometimes it requires some heavy-duty killer drugs to kill these things because they've already penetrated you. So that may be possible, but then you immediately have to flush yourself back in with all that good bacteria, or you're worse because you've killed off a lot of other good bacteria in the process of killing that thing off. So sometimes medical intervention is not the best alternative. We have to decide, can we get rid of that cancer by replacing the interstitial layer with the correct bacterial species, or do we have to kill it first and then replace it? But it's going to be one or the other, or both. All right, so let's start with the bacteria. It's a single-celled, tiny little organism. It's got a flagella, well, not all of them, but most of them, and some of them have multiple. It's a single cell, one cell. Now, inside is the DNA, and that DNA decides what kind of a ribosome this cell will create, this bacteria. And they come in little balls, and they squirt them out wherever they're needed. And I'm not sure whether they just squirt them out all the time or they only squirt them out on demand. That I'm not sure about. But these are the enzymes that are inside these ribosomes, and I'll show you those all unfolding. So this is what does all the work in your body, basically. And if you don't have this, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of different DNA strands, and each one of them creates another different type of ribosome, and every one of those is an enzyme. So let's look at it a little deeper. All right, remember I said they're made out of amino acids, these polypeptide chains that program the ribosomes. The ribosomes get programmed using these polypeptide chains, just like this. Is a little series of particles. There's 20 of them, of the amino acids, and when they come out in a certain order, and they get into the ribosome, it forms a ball. All right, so now the ball comes out. It's got a sheath around it. The sheath unfolds. The enzyme pops out like this, which is this, whoops, all tangled up. It comes out and it goes just like that. And it'll be that exact molecule every time if it works. If it's not that exact molecule, it's not going to work. It can be an enzyme or a protein. Enzymes are proteins, basically. They're both the same thing. They just do different jobs. And one of them is a building block that builds you, and the other one destroys things. All right, you see this? That is what an enzyme looks like. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievably complex. And every one of these little dots, these little blues and reds, are basically magnetic signatures. So you have a magnetic signature like this, and every one of these has a positive or a negative, basically, at the tip of it. And when it finds a little invader that's coming in, and it might be thousands of these together in a tumor, almost like thousands of them at once, it can go click just like that, and it's called click chemistry. They all die instantaneously. I mean instantaneously. In a fraction of a second, it kills them. That's what an enzyme is capable of doing. You don't have the enzyme, you're not going to kill them. And these little ones are coming in all the time, and bang, that gets it, and it's done. Now, I believe the hold on a second, I'll try to explain this. All right, this is from National Institute of Health, and this is about bacteria and macrophages. That's what I'm looking at in a second, because the bacteria is the thing that creates the enzymes, but the macrophages use these products to go out and kill invaders. So this is what they're doing in the tumor microenvironment. Now here's what it says here. Cancer and microbial infections are significant worldwide health challenges. Yes. Numerous studies have demonstrated bacteria may contribute to the emergence of cancer. Yes. And every single organ in your body has a different chemistry, so it's going to have a different membrane surrounding it, and that membrane is going to have different enzymes. If the enzymes in that particular type of organ are not there, then you're going to have pancreatic cancer. You're going to have, all of the different organs have their own little cancer. Skin cancer, brain cancer. I mean, it's everywhere. Every body part is a different chemistry, which requires a different enzyme. So they understand this. Now, what is the story, the relationship between bacteria and macrophages in cancer? And they really don't understand it all that well. So let's look into this. All right, I know this is probably getting more complex than most people care for, but it's important to understand this because macrophages are in the innate immune system, and they kill bacteria, and they secrete both inflammatory and antimicrobial mediators. In addition, these macrophages play an important role in eliminating diseased and damaged cells. They eat them. through their programmed cell death. Generally, macrophages ingest and degrade dead cells, debris, tumor cells, and foreign materials. Well, how do they do that? The only way they can do that is with enzymes. They promote homeostasis, be responding to internal and external changes within the body, not only as phagocytes, which means destroyers, but also through trophic, regulatory, and repair functions. These are very, very important, these macrophages. So let's see how they actually work. All right, this is a macrophage, and they're tiny little things. This is a bacteria, which is tiny, 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 and they are within the cells, and this is trying to invade something, and this thing is going to kill that. So the only way it can do its job is with enzymes, and I mean continuously. All kinds of enzymes have to be used to produce things in your body. They point to an organ. They say, this organ produces a certain enzyme. Well, that's fine, but the bacteria within the organ is what is actually producing the enzyme. They are the factories. So let's watch this. Here it goes. Look at him. He's chasing that guy around. He's going to catch him, and he'll just wrap right around him and gobble him up. And I think he's got some other ones in his belly already. He'll catch him and he'll eat him. You see it? Isn't that something? He's going. There he goes. He's got it. Now, I think he's got some others in there. He's going to gobble up a whole bunch of them. Now, do they disintegrate inside of his body? I think they do. And then he literally eats them to stay alive. But he's going to have some residue. He's going to have some poop. And that's going to have to go somewhere. And it ends up going to the lymph nodes through the lymphatic fluids. There's a lot to understand about this, but it's really what we need to know is the bacteria. Once we know the bacteria, who cares about all this details? What you need to know is who's got the right bacteria and who doesn't, and then it's all over. Okay, let's just go through this really quickly. The enzyme is a specific type of protein that performs a specific function, and that turns things on and off as well, and I'll show you that in a second. The enzymes function to regulate biochemical reactions in living things. They turn things on and off. They kill things. Enzymes are very, very reactive substances and do all kinds of good things, or they can do bad things. They do both. In this sense, they operate solely as a functional protein. So they are proteins, but they do a function. While a protein, a normal protein, can be either functional or structural. And so they build, or they break, or they turn things on and off. They do everything. They basically, bacteria runs your entire body. Without your bacteria, you're in trouble. All right, let me just go over this briefly. You can have perfect genetic information. Your DNA could be absolutely flawless. But if your gene is not expressed when it needs to be turned on, expression means turning on. It's just like a guy turning on a light switch. Well, you need the guy to go over there that knows which switch to turn on, and that is the enzyme. He turns it on. If he doesn't go there, it doesn't get turned on. So you can't express that gene. The gene may be perfect, and in the past they've always got a genetic problem, this or that. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Let me just talk a little more about gene expression. It's called methylation. You see, here it is right here. This National Library of Medicine. Can genes be turned on and off in cells? Absolutely. And it says this complex process is not yet fully understood. They normally say the gene is defective because it just didn't do its job. Well, it didn't do its job because nobody went over and turned a switch. All right, this is quite long, but it's DNA methylation. And what happens is, let's just cut right down to the end, the conclusion here. All right, here's what happens. Recent advances and significant ongoing research efforts that aimed at characterizing the epigenome and its regulation place us firmly in an epigenetic era. Well, what does epigenetic mean? The epigenetic era after the genetic era, where we started to learn the gene sequences, accumulated in the sequencing of the human genome. And the human genome, they figure out what all these sequences mean. And I took the human genome, human genome at Johns Hopkins, and Marguerite O'Reilly, who is heading this research up over in North Ireland. We consulted back and forth as I was going to Johns Hopkins, and she was going to Harvard for the human microbiome. But anyway, getting back to this, the human genome they finally sequenced the human genome. So now they say, well, now that we figured this out, guess what? We're going to go out of the box, because nobody's ever understood that the human genome can be perfect, but the guy can still be sick. They always thought the human genome was going to be wrong, so then the guy's sick. But now they have to go. Epigenetics literally means outside conventional genetics. They had to stop thinking the way they were thinking. It refers to the study of heritable changes in gene expression occur independent of changes in the primary DNA. So the DNA is fine, but you're not expressing why. And that's what we want to get into. And it gets on, I mean, it can go on forever with these things. But I say it's the enzymes, and the enzymes are a product of the bacteria. All right, I can make this really complicated. I can make it really simple. All your organs basically secrete enzymes. Well, they don't just make them. They say the organs make them. The organs don't make them. The organs house the bacteria that create the enzymes. And the enzymes are the catalysts that do all the work in your body. Literally all the chemistry is done via enzymes. Nothing in your body can work fast enough to do the job if it doesn't have the enzyme. Simple as that. Okay, let me just explain something to you about Marguerite O'Reilly and myself. Somehow we crossed paths. I can't remember how. She was in a desperate situation with her son. There was nothing they could do with him. He had very, very severe autism, so forth. And I just said to her, I said, well, how does he poop? Oh, all the kids with autism have the same problem. Their digestive systems are all messed up. Well, she didn't say that. She just said that's part of the autism causes that. And I said, no, the poop problem causes autism more than likely. If you can get his poop under control, maybe we can get somewhere. And I mentioned to her about Garden of Life probiotics, which is what I take, and I know people that have taken it, very, very healthy. It does a nice job. And but you also need bulk in your diet, and you need the probiotics to do the digestion. So she started, and I was really impressed with the way she jumped onto it, because she was very, very concerned about her son, and she had some pretty good success. So anyway, these are the things that we need. Now, I wasn't aware of this, but it looks like they went into a deep dive onto all these digestive. These are all different digestive enzymes, and it's the same company. Why are they making so many different enzymes? But they're all raw enzymes, and these are just enzymes. Now, these are the probiotics. Now, I'm not sure if they really set up in your body, or you just have to keep supplementing. And I just keep supplementing, and it's working out all right, so I don't really care. But what we need to do is to do some fecal studies and say, if you don't take it, what happens? Now, I know Marguerite said when John missed his routine for several days, his symptoms would reoccur. That means he's not producing these products internally. He has to supplement his body with these things. Why is he not having these correct bacteria living in that system, in that interstitium, in the fluid-filled highway? Because that's where they live, and that's where they secrete their juices instantaneously. I mean, those things can move fast through the body. And you take some kind of drug or whatever, within a couple of minutes or a minute or two, you're feeling the effect of it. And if you take things through your lungs, it's a whole nother story, because you're in almost instantaneously, because it goes right into the bloodstream. So you have to understand, absorbing it into your body, it takes another minute or two, but it's just amazing how sophisticated the human body is when it's working correctly. When you don't have the correct food because it's not being broken down, you're not digesting correctly, so you have diarrhea, you have acid reflux, you've got constipation, you've got irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, all of that stuff is a bacterial dysbiosis. You got to get this under control, and we don't know what is right. We don't even know what's right. And the poop smear, I think, because we got to concentrate on how are we going to collect this. How are we going to collect it? What are we going to collect? Feces, spit, maybe blood? I don't know. And how are we going to do the analysis on it? Because we need to know what all the different bacteria. Now, I don't care about the name of the bacteria. I don't care about the species of the bacteria. I need to know an identification of how much is there, and then put it in a database. And they'll come out in colors, I believe, like a spectral analysis, like with artificial intelligence, that is so much of this particular color green, that means there's so much of the lactobacillus, whatever. Something like that. There's got to be some way to analyze these poop smears without getting, big chemistry bills. It's got to be something you can just ding, and find out, and then import that data right into the database and say these are all the products that this guy had in his body, in his poop, and these are the quantities. And then you build a huge database, and of course you have to know that guy's medical history, what interventions have been done to him, and what diseases has he had, and what his currently his situation is. And then in that database you'll see relationships to high amounts of this lead to this, and low amounts of that lead to this. And I really believe that's the only way we're ever going to understand how the human body works. It's very complicated, but we need to be able to collect it and then put it into a database, and then it's all over after that. Then we can decide if somebody comes in with some kind of illness. But pretty much, if your digestive system is working correctly and you poop correctly every day, a nice, well-formed poop, you're good to go. Now, I take Metamucil and I take this stuff. That's it. And then I eat whatever I want to eat. I eat a lot of ice cream. I like ice cream. So, and I don't have any problems digesting anything. Whatever I eat, it goes through me pretty good. But the Metamucil, huge factor there, because you need that bulk. And of course, you don't want to take them at the same time, because you want these pretty much on a more or less empty stomach. The probiotics. I don't know about the enzymes, but the probiotics, you want them to be by themselves and get absorbed the best they can. If you put them through with a whole bunch of food and other stuff, sometimes they don't absorb as well. That's my feeling anyway. So we need to get deep into this, and I'm hoping this database can be done. And I don't have the ability to do it. Marguerite has stepped up just absolutely. I'm so impressed, I can't tell you. And I'm so happy for her that she's had some success, and what she will do will be great things, and the world will be a better place for this, because this is not understood by anybody. This interstitium is just new, and the doctors are glazed over, because the doctor does not want to take and look into anything that's new until it's so well received. That's why it takes forever to get any of this stuff done. We need a database that proves what we're talking about, and then they'll allow you to try these things. Right now, you're not allowed to do it because you could be hurting somebody. And that's not what we want. We want a database to find out how we can help people, not hurt them. Okay, I want to mention something. Marguerite, as I worked with her, we worked quite closely for a while there, and she mentioned that she thought it may had something to do, John Jr., when he had his MMR vaccine. And I do know that Stephanie Seneff at MIT mentioned that the MMR seemed to have some effect on autism. And she also talks about the glyphosate from Roundup, and they had a huge settlement on that, which that's another problem. But I don't think they understand that it's killing the bacteria that's you're losing your enzymes. I know they're looking for the chemistry that's created. They're very, very sophisticated. But really, I'm looking for the bacteria. What bacteria is being damaged by glyphosate? What bacteria is being damaged by MMR? Or is there any? Who knows? But what I would like to do is see the kids' stool sample before they get to MMR and after they get to MMR, just to test, see what happens. Does it change anything in their bacterial profile? Because the MMR is it's a vaccine. I'm 100% for vaccines, absolutely, no question whatsoever. And the measles and so forth can be devastating and cause all kinds of problems, especially to little kids and to pregnant women and all that stuff. So I'm not saying anything about vaccines bad whatsoever. I'm just saying that we'd like to know how they affect the bacterial community, because we may be able to just give them some of this stuff and have as many shots as you want, because you're resupplying it. But the kids have to have a good microbiome as they develop, because they have no microbiome. Hold on one second. All right, this is the digestive system of a newborn. They don't have one. All right, digestive system, the adult body. Unlike the adult body, the fetal digestive system does not have a digestive function from birth. They just don't have anything. But they're ready to be programmed by local bacteria. All right, the stomach and intestines are reduced in size. The liver is huge, much bigger proportionally than when it's developed, because it's doing all of the work of detoxifying things. Now, and they don't have a digestive system. Now, where do they get their bacteria? How do they get bacteria in these places where they need these bacteria? First of all, there's the vaginal canal, has a lot of bacteria, and it could be changing, I don't know, as they get ready for birth, because your body regulates all these things if you have all the right chemistry in the bacteria to know what to do. That's your genetic expression. All right, your genome, your genetic expression is based on turning on and off switches, and you only turn them on and off when you need them. If you're not pregnant, you don't need this or that. When you're not giving a baby, you don't need whatever it is. So your body is, and all that stuff is programmed in your DNA. But you need somebody to go out and turn the switches on and off, and that's what I'm talking about, is the enzymes, which is the bacteria. So and the kids, they have nothing. So if they're not really pumped up and strong when they get that shot at a very young age, 3, they could possibly cause them some damage. I have no idea. I'm certainly not making that allegation, and I never say anything's good or bad until it's proven. And this is totally unproven area right now. I don't even know if what I'm saying is going to work. But without having a database, we will never know. So that's my probably last words on it. Now I'm going to finish it up right now. Just make one last statement. All of these are different types of tissue, and you got your esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and then you get down through your intestines and down to your rectum. Now, I was perfectly healthy. And then I had a root canal, and the guy said, well, take some of these pills just in case, you got bacterial infection. They're antibiotics. And I said, all right. So I took them, and I had 2 anal fistulas, which means the bacteria at that point wasn't any good anymore, killed them. And I had to have surgery twice because of this, not understanding this. And then when I finally did discover it, by that time I had been taking probiotics and everything was fine. I've never had any problems since. But the two in a row was bad, and then it went bad again because I didn't have the right bacteria. Nobody ever said you got to take bacteria. You got to have the right bacteria. So I think this is well worth the effort to get a bacteria database and see what it relates to. Who's got Crohn's disease and what bacteria is too much or too low? Who's got irritable bowel? Who's got whatever these diseases? Any disease. I don't care what it is. So this is just the beginning of health in general. And the health systems are totally overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed now. Because I believe people's bacteria is being damaged just by the lifestyle, just by, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, maybe whatever it is. But once you get that bacterial issue started, the only way to correct it is to know what's wrong, and we're never going to know.